Pastor Wilson has been doing an awesome job taking us through the book of Revelation. And we interrupt that for this Sunday. He'll be back next Sunday to continue to take us through as we learn more about the 7 churches of Asia Minor and what God is doing. Let us stand this morning. We are in John chapter 6. John chapter 6, beginning at verse 1. John 6, beginning at verse 1. I'm reading. John 6, beginning at verse 1, going down to verse 13. Price, when you hear your cue, that's your cue. It says, sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee. That is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered, "It would take more than a half year's wages to buy enough bread for everybody just to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. He said, "Here's a lad with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish." 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. And the lad brought forth his lunch. Here's a lad with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. And what is that among so many? Next verse. Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Everybody sit down. Sit down. Sit down. We're about to feed everybody. Sit down. Sit down. Have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in that place. And they sat down, and it was about 5,000 men. Jesus then took the loaves, and he gave thanks. Do me a favor, somebody, Sister Lynch, or somebody, bring me some gloves. Those gloves kitchen people use, because I don't want to touch these with my hands, because I'm going to give them away. Somebody, kitchen people, bring me some kitchen gloves. Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, distributed those who were seated as much, what? As they wanted, and he did the same with the fish. When they all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them, and they filled what? 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. God bless you. Thank you. I want to use as a subject this morning, the subject that this older preacher used, preaching the same text, small lunches and big crowds. Small lunches and big crowds. Out of all the parables, all the stories in the Bible, in the New Testament, this is the only one, other than the story of the resurrection, that is told in all 4 Gospels. All, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, record the feeding of the 5,000. The only other story that all 4 record is Jesus' resurrection. 5,000 men, plus women and children, were fed with 12 baskets left over. For those who know the story, it begins by saying that Jesus was tired. He had been out healing and preaching and teaching. he got in a boat to cross over the sea to the other side. It's about a 3-mile journey for him to go from one side of the sea to the other in a boat. But the crowd followed him. They didn't follow in a boat. They followed by walking along the shore. That's a 9-mile walk. When Jesus got to the other side, the crowd showed up. The Bible says he went up on the mountainside and began to talk to them. But then he looked out and he said, with compassion, how do we feed all these people? Now, his disciples did what his disciples normally do. They came up with reasons why we can't do it. Hear me, church people. They came up with the reasons why we can't do it. Master, that's too many people. Master, we don't have enough money. One of them actually said this, Master, I tell you what you do, send them away. Church of Jesus Christ, that's not what we do. We don't send hungry people away. We don't send hurting people away. We welcome them in and we figure out how we're going to handle it and what we're going to do. It's interesting in the text, if you saw it, Jesus asked them the question, but then it said he already knew what he was going to do. Andrew, Philip said it's going to cost too much money. Andrew said, guess what? I found a young man here. I found a child here. I found a boy here. I found a lad here, and he's got a lunch. And in his lunch, there's 5 loaves and 2 fish. But what is that among so many? I found a boy who's got a lunch with 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish, and how are we going to feed over 5,000 with that? Jesus said, don't worry about it. Bring the boy to me. I want to share this morning, ladies and gentlemen, as our young people are in the building, one of the heroes in this story is this boy. One of the heroes in this story is the boy. I don't know his name. He's unnamed. I don't know his age. I don't know what school he goes to. I don't know if he's a Hughes, Taft, Schroeder. I don't know. I don't know if he's a Don. I don't know. We're not told much about the boy. I don't know if he's got brothers and sisters. But what I do know is he got a lunch. He's got a lunch with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And I bring this up today because the most pressing need right now in the urban centers across America, the most pressing need right now in the suburban centers across America, in the rural communities and across America is our youth. There's nothing more pressing right now than these young people. There is nothing more pressing right now for the Church of Jesus Christ than these young people. I watched the debate the other day, the vice presidential debate the other day. I keep up with politics. I watched the debate, and I realized that the Democrats, their major issues, they're running on a woman's rights and a woman's rights over her autonomy, over her own body, and autonomy over her own health. And that's like their main issue that they believe is going to get them in the White House. And the other side, the Republicans, are running on the economy and immigration, and they believe that's what's going to get them back in the White House. And finally, in the debate, they said, let's talk about gun violence. I'm like, fine, cool. So finally, something that my ears perked up because I'm doing funerals. I'm the one preaching the eulogies of young people who are being shot down in our streets. And I'm the one who wakes up every morning to watch the news and find out somebody got shot in Winton Terrace, and the next day somebody got shot in North Avondale, and the next day somebody got shot in Walnut Hills, and then somebody got shot in Louisville and in Pittsburgh and in Detroit, all over the country. So they said, let's talk about gun violence, and my ears perked up. Because I wanted to hear what either one of them had to say about gun violence. And then they start talking about AR-15s and mass shootings. Now, I understand that mass shootings is a problem. I understand that nobody should have an AR-15, especially if you're not hunting. I got that. As a matter of fact, one day I was at my daughter's school. I'm walking campus. I didn't realize they were on lockdown. So as I'm walking the campus, somebody came out of a door and said, "You got to get in here. You got to get in here." I'm like, I don't go here. That was my first thought. I'm not a student here. But they were serious. You got to get in here. We're on lockdown. They pulled me in the classroom. All the kids are ducked down. They're quiet. The teacher has like a candle holder, something in her hand, because they've been trained that if the person comes in, you got to hit them. You got to fight. I understand mass shootings. I understand AR-15s. But that's not what we're dealing with every day. That's not the gun violence that we're dealing with when I'm doing these funerals. So when they talked about mass shooting, and mass shootings are normally little white kids who go in and shoot up schools. It's rarely the little violence we see on these streets. So I'm waiting, okay, I'm good. Let's get rid of AR-15s, try to stop mass shootings. But what about these streets? They never got there. They never got there. To them, gun violence is gun control, take away the semi-automatic weapons, and somehow stop kids from shooting up schools. But we got people dying on these streets every night. Our children are under attack. The most pressing thing, church, is their safety, their future, and their mental well-being. Their safety, their future, their mental well-being. I don't know when we grew up what our mental states were. I know our mamas and daddies thought we were nuts. We were crazy. We had issues. But we got more children today who are on medication. Our medication back in the day was what? A butt whooping. And I'm glad the medication works. I'm glad it works. But the medication we got worked too. The medication we got was like this. If you don't get your... Yeah, it worked. And it wasn't just mom and daddy, it was neighbors. The most pressing need is our young people's health, safety, mental well-being. Our young people are under attack. They don't even realize they're under attack because they're under attack from social media. The devil is using now the tools out there that have been created. They're under attack from technology. The cell phone is the new drug. That's a t-shirt right there. The cell phone is the new drug. It is the new addiction. I have seen literally children get their phone taken and they start shaking. I'm not lying. I've seen it. The cell phone is the new drug. They are addicted to it. Andrew said, there's a boy here. There's a boy here and he's got a lunch. 5 loaves and 2 fish. And what is that among so many? Why do I share that this morning? Because I believe there's some young people here. And I know that they've got gifts that God has gifted them that we need to pay attention to. There's a boy here. There's a young person here. There's no grown folk who stepped up with a lunch. The grown folks said, let's forget about it. But there's a boy here who's got a lunch. And what is that among so many? But what they did is they took the lunch and they put it in the hands of Jesus. You just saw a whole bunch of young people get baptized. And part of what that baptism is while it may be me in the water, it's putting them in the hands of Jesus. And young people and old people and everybody, when you put yourself in God's hands, when you put yourself in the hands of Jesus, they put it in his hands. And the Bible says that he took the bread, he broke it, and he started passing it out. Now, if I were to take this bread, putting these gloves on is probably too much trouble because it takes too much time. And it is 5 loaves. I went to Sam's yesterday. 5 loaves and 2 packs of tuna fish. And somehow, he's going to take this and bless everybody. But before we get to how this blesses everybody, let's appreciate this boy. Let's acknowledge the fact, first of all, that he was present. He was there. He was there. He was in the place. He was in the worship. He was in the house. The boy was present. Let's acknowledge that. I remember when I was in school, I don't know if they still do it. In school, they used to take attendance every day, every morning, kind of like at elementary school. And the teacher would call your name. And they say, Damon, I say, here. And they go down the roll. And there was always that one kid in the class, instead of saying here, he'd say what? Present. And we look at him like, come on, man. We always considered that kid, say present, the show-off kid. Present. But the boy was, obviously he heard that Jesus was going to be in town. Obviously he saw the crowd going to hear this man named Jesus, and he heard, and he showed up to hear the word drip from the lips of the master. But not only was he present, he was prepared. He was prepared. Church, that's our goal, is prepare them for this world. At some point, his mother told him, boy, I know where you're going to hear that man named Jesus. I don't know how long the worship service is. It might be Baptist church. They might be there a couple hours. It might be Pentecostal. They'd be there all day. I don't know. It might be Crossroads and you don't need no lunch, but yeah, they're going to let you out in 50 minutes. But wherever it is, I'm going to pack you a lunch. I'm going to pack you a lunch. Boy, here's 5 loaves and 2 fish. And I want you to go here, take your jacket. It might get cool tonight. And take your jacket and go hear this man, Jesus. He was present, but he was also prepared. He was present. He was at the right place at the right time. He was present. He was there, and he had what Jesus needed. See, we may discount young people. Paul told Timothy this, don't let anybody despise your youth. We may discount young people, but God gifts young people. God can use whoever he wants to use. Don't discount a young person's wisdom. Don't discount their gifts. I used to live in Madisonville, and on Madison Road, as you go down Madison Road, through Madisonville, you're heading out of Madisonville, almost, I guess, into Madison Place, but you're still on Madison Road. There's a trestle. There's a railroad trestle. And that railroad trestle, I guess it tells you how tall it is, but there are always truckers who miss how tall that thing is, and their truck gets stuck under that railroad trestle, railroad trestle. And so one day the truck gets stuck under the trestle, and the truck driver is doing everything he can to move it. So he puts it in drive and It doesn't move. He drops it in reverse and it doesn't move back. And a little boy comes up on a bicycle. A little boy comes up on the bicycle. The trucking company has already called out engineers and everybody to try to figure out how do we get this truck unstuck. And a little boy on a bicycle rides up. He says, "What's the matter? Y'all stuck?" And the man said, "Go on, little boy, go on. We trying to figure it out." And the little boy said, "I can help you if you want me to." I said, "Little boy, you can't help us. We got engineers out here and everybody. You can't help us." Little boy said, "I can help you if you want me to." And finally they said, "Well, little boy, how can you help us? What advice do you have?" Little boy said, "I tell you what you need to do is let the air out the tires." That's all. Just let the air out the tires. Some of us are so high-minded and so full of air that we don't acknowledge the gifts of these young people. Sometimes we got to let the air out the tires and acknowledge that they're the ones with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. The little boy was present. Present. That's how I grew up. That's how most of us grew up. I grew up in the church. Every Sunday I was present. Every youth choir rehearsal I was present. Doesn't mean I was living right all the time. Doesn't mean I was always paying attention. But guess what? I was present. You got to bring your kids to church. I just did the funeral the other day, a young man who was shot down in Winton Terrace. I did his funeral this past week, shot down in Winton Terrace, and I'm sharing with the family because I'm trying to understand why are we losing so many of our young people in these streets to this violence. And I said, I hear all the reasons people tell me. So, Reverend, you know, poverty is one of the reasons. Well, I said, well, we've been poor before. Being poor ain't new, but we wasn't killing each other. Wherever, you know, it's racism, and well, we've always had racism, but we wasn't killing each other. Wherever, you know, the school system is this. I said, well, we've always had to deal with that, but we weren't killing each other. Wherever, you know, there's no daddies in the house. I agree. Everything they said, I agree with, but we've been through that without killing each other. And I said, the problem I see is that we've walked away from God. That's the problem I see. So I'm in Walker Funeral Home on Gilbert Avenue doing the service, and they are sitting on pews. So I said, let me take the time to explain to them what they're sitting on. Because most of them, they only come to church at funerals. They don't come for weddings because ain't nobody getting married. So I said, you're sitting on what we call pews. And this puts you about as close to church as most of you have been since the last funeral. Because at the funeral, they always have time for remarks. So everybody gets 2 minutes for remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm listening to the remarks. And the remarks are, yeah, I just lost my cousin last week. I just lost my brother. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, something is wrong with this picture. Everybody's got a remark about who they just lost as we are burying this brother. We've walked away from God. Yes, social media can be demonic. Yes, the music is demonic. But we dealt with all of that growing up. But the one thing we had was we were present in church. And when you're present, that's how you end up getting prepared. When you're present, that's how you end up at an altar call and where God can speak to you. When you're present, that's where you learn how to pray and sing God's songs that will hold you. Finally, the boy was present. He was prepared, but lastly, he was willing. They couldn't just go take the boy's lunch. Andrew just couldn't take the boy's lunch. The little boy had to give his lunch. He had to be willing. And that's what we got to be. You got to be willing. His mother gave him a lunch. All he had was 5 little pieces of bread and 2 little fish. And he said, here you go. Just like the boy who told the trucker, I can help you if you want me to. I know it ain't much. I know it's not much. I don't have but a little bit. But what little bit I have, I give. I may not be able to put big money in church like the big money people, but the little bit that I have, I give. I may not be retired and give a whole lot of time, but the little bit I have, I give. I may not have all the degrees. You know, and we are a gifted church. We are a blessed church. We are blessed. What I love about New Prospect, and you may not know this, we are like in the middle. We're not like super high church where everybody has a doctorate and they let you know. Where we're just so impressed with ourselves. Yeah, we're not that, and you know we're just regular folk. We're just regular folk. Just regular folk. So we may not be super high where everybody's Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so. Never will forget, I think Vanessa Enoch introduced me to somebody at the church downtown one day. And she introduced me. You know, I'm just like regular folk. I say, how you doing, Miss So-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And I said the lady's name, and she was quick to say, it's Dr. So-and-so. I'm like, my bad. I'm sorry. We may not have all the high-bloodedness, but we use what we have. We use what we have. This church moved from downtown to here in this building. It took everything we could do. And you know what? It took Deacon Ronnie Dykes to get on his hands and knees. It took all of us to make this happen. We didn't have millions and millions of dollars. There are churches actually who have millions of dollars, and we will do more with the pennies than they will do with the millions. But we take the little bit we have and get big things done. The Bible says Jesus took the bread. And I love this. It says he took it and he gave thanks for it. This is Jesus who created the sun, the moon, and the stars. He's given God thanks for 5 pieces of bread. That's a lesson right there. I don't care how much you have or don't have. Thank God for the little bit you have. And somehow he began to break it. And I don't know how it happened, but 5 became 10. And it just kept more bread. And the Bible says everybody got something to eat. And then, if that's not enough, there was 12 baskets left over. Jalen, bring me my 12. Where's my 12 baskets? 12 baskets left over. God don't play. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above what we ask or think. Everybody ate, and then there was still 12. He said, go gather up the scraps. Don't let nothing be wasted. We ain't gonna waste no blessings. And he gathered up the scraps, and there was 12 baskets left over. You know, ain't nothing better than leftovers. You ever thank God for leftovers? 12 baskets left over. I'm going to say this and I'm done. There's an assumption. Could be right. It's just not one I agree with. 12 baskets left over. There's an assumption that it's 12 because he had 12 disciples. And then somehow each disciple got to go home with a basket. That ain't what I believe. Because the disciples are the same ones who said, send them home. The disciples are the same ones who said, this ain't enough. No, I don't believe they got a basket for that kind of faith. Help me, God, somebody. I don't believe you get a basket for that kind of faith. I believe that the little boy who gave his small lunch, who gave all he had, got the baskets and went back home. And when he got home, his mama said, boy, where'd you get all this food from? He said, Mama, I went to hear Jesus. And I went to hear him preach. And I went to hear him teach. And I gave him my lunch. I gave him all I had. And he gave me the blessing of the baskets. That's how God works. The more you give, the more he gives to you. That's why I give to these young people. I give to you. Because the more I give, the more God gives to me. So I'm thankful that Pastor Jimmy Wilson is up here killing it. And I want him to keep killing it. Just keep dropping, just keep killing it. Because I'm happy where I am. Because right now, all I got is a few fish and a few loaves. And I'm giving them to these young people so they can take their few fish and their few loaves and turn this world around. Master, there's a boy here. There's a girl here. And she's got a lunch. I shared at the funeral the other day, and let me say this to my young people, to anybody who's raising young people. I shared with them the order of things that will make life a little bit easier and a little bit better. Young people, make sure, number one, you get your diploma. Get your diploma. Get your diploma. Finish high school. After you get your diploma, either get a degree, a trade, or the military. Get your diploma. After your diploma, you either get a degree, a trade, or the military. You really don't want to go from diploma to work. Because 9 times out of 10, that work is not going to be rewarding, and that work is not going to pay you enough. Rent is high. Rent is high. The man in New York said what? Rent is what? Yeah, they don't know. I'll spare you. Rent is high, so you don't want to go diploma, work. Now, there's nothing wrong with work, but you want to go diploma, degree, trade, military, then work. Then work. After work, you want to go marriage. After marriage, children. If you put it in any other order, it just makes life a whole lot harder. It doesn't make it impossible, it just makes it a whole lot harder. Master, there's a boy here. There's a girl here. They're present. They're prepared. They're willing. I don't want to do any more of those funerals. I will, I know, but I don't want to. And let me say this, because I know there's a Bengals game and some of y'all got to go. So hold on. Hold on. So the pain is so real to me because, ladies and gentlemen, most of these people dying in these streets look like me. God told Cain, the blood of your brother cries out from the ground. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this church. I'm excited about this work. I thank God for all that he's given us, these fish and these loaves, this place, this building, this property, these people. And I want to see God do even greater works. I realize I'll be 65 years old. And they keep sending me, kids say, 65? Yeah. They keep sending me this stuff in the mail about Meta something. I don't even know which one is it, Medicare. And I got to figure out Medicare and I don't know none of that stuff. I realize I'm not here to stay. None of us are here to stay, but while I'm here, I'm going to fight for these kids. While I'm here. So God bless you. Young people, we love you. Elders, we love you. Guests, we love you. Lord God, we love you. Please stand to your feet.